as you can see, we have 20 individuals with their names. We want 5 in a sample, a random sample, and we're given a string of random digits to aid in that goal. With whatever method you choose, there are 2 main requirements. One, that each individual has the same chance of being selected. And not only that, that each group of size 5, in this case, has the same chance of being selected. So, although it might not seem very random that Adam, Ellen, Joy, Peter, and Chris get picked, that group has to have the same chance of being picked as, for example, Rachel, Joan, Mary, Dick, Ellen. These random digits, there's no significance with regards to the grouping of 5 digits. It's just the ease in reading. So it's to help the human being. What's more important is that you know that the probability of any one digit occurring is 10%, because we have 10 digits in our system. So the chance of this first digit being a 0 is 10%, 1 out of 10. We're going to use that to our advantage here. Because I have 20 names, I want to select 2 digits at a time. So, just to give you a reason why it wouldn't work otherwise, if I just did 1, 2, 3, 4, and then read off 1 digit at a time, hopefully you can see that individuals near the beginning of the list would have a higher probability of being selected if I just chose 1 digit at a time. Plus, it wouldn't really make sense because I think it would obviously exclude the other people. So we need to do 2 digits at a time. I can choose to either begin with 0, 0 or 0, 1. I see no preference, really. Some people might say, well, it's not completely random or completely unbiased. If I see the numbers and then start, I agree with that. So if I was trying to be truly random about this, I would either not see this random number list first and then do the numbering, or do the numbering and then use some other tool like the graphing calculator or die to pick a random starting point. Never underestimate the ability of this to be biased. It does so at a subconscious level. But just for the purposes of this AP statistics illustration, I'm going to just start numbering. So I can make Adam 0, 0, Ellen 0, 1, Joy 0, 2, etc. So that's one of the things that I would say is essential here when you are generating a random sample, is numbering the individuals, giving them distinct identifiers. And this will be nice. We will get a truly random sample out of this. We're not going to have to worry about bias. And there's a beauty in that, I think. Now what we'll do is, going from left to right, that's a convention that I'll use, is I'll read off 2 digits at a time. And if those 2 digits correspond to somebody in the list, they will get selected. If they don't, then I will ignore the digits. And if the same number, the same 2-digit number appears more than once and it corresponds to somebody in that list, I will just skip it Okay? One of the things that we require you to do and train you to do in this course is to develop your communication skills. So if this was an AP free response question, the reader would be looking not only for the correctness of your response, but the accuracy and clarity of your communication. That would be half of the score that you would receive. So I will explain my process. Steps, number the students from 00 to 19, see above. 2, split the random number table up into groups of 2. 3, read off 2 digits at a time from left to right. What you want to do is generate a set of instructions such that a person who has a background in statistics will be able to follow and replicate your method. For if the 2 digits correspond to a name, that person is in the sample. If not, then skip that number. If a person has been selected already, then also skip that number and stop when 5 distinct names have been chosen. Okay, so you might be able to improve on my grammar or clarity, but I think that's a decent response from an AP FRQ point of view, especially when you're only given 12 or 13 minutes to respond to a question like this. Now I'll conduct my algorithm, going from left to right. 04, that's Chris. There's several ways that you could indicate this. You can just circle, for example, and then maybe under here write Chris. Here, next one, 02, that corresponds to Joy, or whoever it is based on your numbering. And all these numbers that are above 19 in my case, I'm just going to ignore and signify that with a cross through. 18, Paul. 07, Rachel. And I need one more. A lot of numbers that we have to skip. 06 is Kenny. All free responses are expected to have a conclusion stated in context. Many times it's simply one sentence. So even though we'll be doing more writing than what you're probably used to in a math class, it's not going to be an English class in terms of the degree of writing. So I'll say Chris, Joy, Paul, and Paul, Rachel, and Kenny were chosen using this method. The other thing, if you look at the AP free response scoring rubric, they look for any caveats or assumptions. So a caveat is something to be concerned with. And in general, they like seeing that. So I'm going to say here, I have a slight concern regarding the bias possibly introduced by seeing the random digits while numbering. Okay? That would be considered an acceptable process. Any questions, or anyone need me to go over any of the steps? Yes?
What would happen if you chose, like, you decided you wanted to number, like, 20 through 39, and then, like, you never got the numbers, like, on random numbers? You know what I'm saying?
Great question. What if the numbers that you chose to assign to the names never appeared? Well, one option you have is to go through the list from left to right, then go back from right to left. You know, or here's another option. Instead of starting at this digit here, start at this digit here, because then you get a whole new set of numbers. Okay? Great question. Any other questions? Yes?
What if, oh no, never mind. I answered the question.
Okay? PG? I don't see why not. The question is, can you go 0, 0, 0, 2, 0, 4, 0, 6? Yes, I don't see a problem with that. Okay? Another thing that I've seen people do is give more than one number to an individual, especially in cases like this where we have just 20 individuals and there are 100 numbers from 00 to 99. So they might give Adam a range like 00 to 03 or to 04. That would make the selection process faster, probably. Yes, sir.
Would it be okay if you, instead of skipping the digits that, is that were too big to do in that list, divide by the smallest factor until you get a number that's in the list, instead of skipping so many?
Okay.
Because you can only get a finite number because in this list, like, for example, we barely got 5, I think. So in that case, you would get the result out of everything that's not applied in the list of components.
So let's play around with that. And for my edification, what you're saying is if we encounter a number that's above 19 in this instance, we do what with it? Divided by 5. To get a number that's within, okay? That only works if each possibility, each quotient has the same chance of occurring. And right now my brain is telling me that that's not going to be an issue, but it's something that you want to be concerned about. Okay? Any method you choose, regardless of how complex or how brilliant you think it is, it needs to adhere to the basic principle of each individual must have the same chance of being picked, and on top of that, each group of size n equals 5 in this case, has the same chance of being picked. Okay? And The other thing that if you look, you can see on the AP rubric is they like novelty. So if you come up with a novel way of doing something, as long as it's correct, that's generally good. We encourage you to do that. Yes?
What do you say, like, even if you didn't see the random digits before, what do you say it's biased because you chose to go from like 0, 0 to 19 versus like any other set of numbers?
No. There's no bias if I cannot see the random digits that I'm looking for and I choose 0, 0 through 19, because those numbers have the same chance of showing up as any other 20 two-digit numbers. Okay? Yes?
Isn't it going from left to right as opposed to right to left a little biased stuff?
Only if you've seen the numbers in advance. hmm The question was, is there bias introduced by going from left to right as opposed to right to left? No, as long as you haven't seen the numbers in advance. Okay, if you've seen the numbers in advance, one thing you could do, like I said before, you could use a die to pick a random starting point. You could use randint on the calculator. Yes, I know it's not completely random, but it should be good enough to pick a starting point. Like, for example, you could choose one of these 5-digit groupings, however many there are. Maybe there's 10 of them, and then start there. There are a lot of ways that you can minimize bias using a machine. Great questions. Other questions?